our podcast, Keeping It Real.
I think there's a healthy medium between making a lot of money and actually doing what's right for people. If you like helping people, if you like working your own hours, if you don't like having a boss, if you want to have your own business, and as a bonus, you can make some pretty good money, then it's a great industry to be in. It's the most lucrative industry to be in. There's a big difference between being rich and being wealthy. I think people who do wrong by people might be rich for a little bit. I think people who do what's right by people and build their wealth slowly, they are wealthy people. I also want to challenge everyone that's listening, go and find this information online. It is out there, okay? Don't just believe what your leader says.
And if I'm helping my clients at the end of the day both ways, then we both can win.
But if I make a little bit less so that you guys can make a little bit more, that's a successful business. I can never make more money than what you make. It's impossible. It doesn't mathematically work in our commission structure.
The exact same deal, the person who did the deal is making almost $300 less than his senior. Your advisor is no longer your advisor, and this new advisor is now your advisor. And they don't say that you left, they say you've been terminated.
I think there's a healthy medium between making a lot of money and actually doing what's right for people.
Hey there, welcome to our podcast, Keeping It Real, where we talk about real financial problems, come up with real financial solutions, and we talk with real people. My name's Irene Meyer.
And I'm Philip Villanueva. And again, we're having our guest appearance here with senior Drawer David. Inside joke, guys, inside joke.
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
You know what? It's interesting because let's just get right into it. Everyone in this industry has heard, some sort of pitch that, start your own brokerage, build your team, own your business. But what if we told you today that most agents never actually own anything they build, and many don't even know until it's too late?
People, this is not going to be a bashing session by any means. This is really just trying to be transparent for anyone who's thinking about this industry and getting involved in this industry and learning the truth. Okay, so today we're going to look at the real numbers behind commissions, the ownership myths, what actually happens when you leave companies, and I'm actually going to name names, okay, if that's okay. Companies like WFG, Primerica, Great Way, things of this nature. Okay, when you actually leave these companies, what actually happens, and then the emotional and financial damage that some of their platforms actually cause. And we're going to compare this to the company Experior and how Experior actually addresses those issues. And we're going to have some good insight with, especially Irene was in one of the senior levels of one of those previous platforms. We're going to try and base this mainly on fact, if we can, please.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Now, the first thing, anyone thinking about this profession and their first thoughts about getting involved in this profession is usually, what would you guys say?
So I would personally say, and I'll talk about my story. I personally got involved in this industry because I wanted to make sure that what happened to myself and my parents doesn't happen to anybody else ever again. The reality is that there was a lot of products and a lot of services and a lot of advisors out there that are quote unquote helping clients, but they're really not doing the best job for the clients. There was something about my upbringing that just taught me, to do right by people and to help people. And I found an industry that I can do that and I can make a really good income. But my one tip for anyone considering joining this industry, if you're looking to get us in this industry just to make a lot of money, you're going to crash and burn very fast. If you like helping people, if you like working your own hours, if you don't like having a boss, if you want to have your own business, and as a bonus, you can make some pretty good money, then it's a great industry to be in. It's the most lucrative industry to be in. In saying that, because it's the most lucrative industry to be in, yes, you can make a lot of money and you do not need to struggle to the top. There's this big saying in the industry and most organizations is you got to struggle to the top. No, you don't. My first full year in business, I did not struggle. I made a really, really good income. I helped a lot of people and I built a nice little team. Now, 9 years later, I've been in the industry 10 years and I have hundreds of agents in my organization. I make even more money, but it's because of the ability to help people with their finances. So you got to really think and consider what your why is. You really got to get intimate with your why. Why do I want to do this? Why do I want to do anything? So that's my tip to everyone considering the industry.
You know, it's interesting you say that, Shore, because very similar to your story, except I came from the traditional banking industry, where I saw the value of, you know, having your own team, training your own team. Still in the financial industry, but a different side of the financial industry, where I could amalgamate both these sides into this one industry, but also realize that I can choose how I help people. Meaning I could really individualize their needs and then come up with an individualized plan. And I saw a group of people who did this with one of the other companies, and I just saw the vision of how I could be that teacher, that educator with financial services. And my biggest why was very much about I saw how my parents struggled. They're immigrants. I'm first generation Canadian. And I realized very fast that the bank, when I worked there, did not help them at all. In fact, the biggest thing was realizing my parents were still in a mortgage when they decided to retire. And I realized how much they actually get when they retire. And I really started to question, how did I let this happen? I'm working at the bank. At the time, I was at the bank for 15 years. And I'm like, how did I let this happen? I realized really how truly we were not actually trained or educated at the bank. And I was a manager. So I felt extremely guilty. But with that being said, I also saw the value of running my own show. Coming back now here to where we are today, where the company is changed. I'm now with Experior, and when I think of Experior, I think of Superior. I don't know if that was how they came up with the name, but I think of Experior, and one of the biggest things that drew me to your team, Jor, was the fact that you knew your sorry, but you knew your financial stuff. And you weren't focused on trying to get me, this person who had financial experience, and trying to, you know, jump on this opportunity where I was obviously very vulnerable to a change. You were very patient, and you were kind, and you waited till I was ready, which I appreciate. So I can expect that for the people that you help me bring onto my team, which is a very big, I hope you take that is huge, because you were trying to sell me a dream. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, part of the problem with a lot of the other competition is they sell you this dream that sounds great, 100%. I get it. But sometimes that's not everyone's dream. But you would somehow get conditioned that that's going to be your dream. When sometimes the dream could be as small as, I just actually want to be done, finish paying my debt. And let's start with that dream, right? And then you have this big lavish dream, and you feel like there's these big lavish steps to kind of get to that point that you almost kind of give up, because it's like, it seems like too much work. Well, let's work with the person in front of us. And then actually, and it just doesn't come to individualizing their financial plan. But when we're talking about the advisors on our team, we need to kind of come to that point with them as well. Like, what do you want to do with this business? And I love the idea that Jor has standards where it's not recruit everyone and see who sticks, which I think at the end of the day, a lot of these companies have this mentality like, someone's going to stick and we'll pay attention to the ones that stick, right? I believe that there are great people that could get into this industry, work really hard, and make a great living and help a lot of people, versus just seeing who's going to do that. Let's just try to sell this dream to everybody and see who sticks. And so I feel like having standards on your team is probably going to retain a lot more people on the team, as well as retain a lot of clients, just as a result of that.
And in my reason why, again, it's kind of different than yours, from both of yours, in a sense of I was more focused on the greed part of it, making money. And I'll tell you why that is. All my life, ever since I was young, I kind of developed an entrepreneurial kind of platform for myself. I used to have my own fitness facility, and I had that for 20 years, right? And then I went into automotive sales, but even when I went into automotive sales, I governed that like it was my own business, right? So it was a business, but that business was just really covering my overhead, my costs, and I was running a business within a business is what I was doing, and completely did it different than any other salesperson did. And I functioned that way pretty much my whole life. The problem was I had no financial sense whatsoever. So it didn't matter if I was making money, I was losing money just as quickly. So there was no future in it, right? So now in the last profession I was in, I saw the kind of money that people in the financial industry made because I was doing their credit application, right? So I saw the kind of money. So the greed part of me, hey, I want to make that kind of money. How do I do that, right? When I got involved in this industry, and actually I got involved through Irene, I started learning how money actually works, right? Except for the platform I was with wasn't showing me. So I had this mentor who was showing me how money works. I had a platform that didn't care how money worked. So it was like it was a contradiction. And I remember so many discussions I had with you, Irene, saying something's not making sense to me, something's not right. I wasn't feeling right in what I was doing. And I used to even ask you, what is my title? What do I do? What am I actually doing? I had so many discussions that way with you, and you didn't know how to answer me because of the fact that you were trying to mask the platform, I think, back in the day. That's what I feel now. That now, years later, where I'm looking back, I'm thinking, oh, you were trying to be on the platform that you were in and trying to explain the way that functions, which was a contradiction of what you personally were. And that's why I was getting all this information and knowledge from you, but it was clashing with how I was supposed to be functioning in my business, right? And that's where now I've come across Jor, who, again, thanks to you, Irene, I've come across Jor. And it was interesting because I've had many discussions with other agencies and other advisors, and every single time there would be a discussion about business, right? And I knew, and I knew when I first joined the agency that you were in before, how uncomfortable I felt, especially because it seemed like you were the only one who knew how to answer client related issues, right? And so when I would meet with these other people from other agencies and we would have discussions, I would get that same uncomfortable feeling, like they really didn't know. They only knew what their platform was teaching them. That I would always get this feeling, right? When I first met you, Joe, and I said this to Irene after our meeting, you knew what you were talking about. And I felt like I could have an actual factual discussion with you, right? And that's what made me say, you know what, if I'm going to leave anything, I'm not going to leave one fire to jump into another fire. I'm not going to do that, right? So I was going to stay with this other agency, if I was just going to consistently see it was going to be the same thing no matter where I went. But then when you showed me you actually had knowledge of how to help people, right? Because that's in the end, that's the best feeling. The money that we make, all of that kind of stuff, that's great. That's kind of the icing on the cake. But the feeling we have after somebody else is succeeding, that's the nice feeling, right? And that's the drive, and that's what keeps us going in this industry. Really, it's the fact that, hey, somebody else is happy now, right? So, and again, thank you, Irene, for introducing me to Jor. And so my feelings are similar in a sense, but it started off initially from the greed section, right? Where I'm sure a lot of people out there are thinking about the financial industry. Let's face it, a lot of people trying to find a job, they're looking to make money, and that's how they're starting, right? So wherever that avenue ends up taking us, as long as we're heading in the direction of, if you're going to get into this, you got to get in this industry for the right reason, and like George said, a reason why that's going to maintain and have sustainability once you make money. Because if you say, hey, I want to make $100,000 a year, what happens when you reach that, right? What happens when you reach $100,000? Are you going to lose your drive? Are you going to lose your motivation? Your business is going to go down, right? Like any other business, right? So in saying this, if we're talking about money in the beginning, hey guys, let's get right to the ice, like right to the root of it all, and let's talk about the commissions that potentially you could be making, right? So I'm going to talk about specifically one agency, WFG, and I'm going to use the comparison against Experior. Okay, and this is going to be very like surface level. We're not going to get too in depth, but in like any profession, like any career, any job, you start off as you have your base employee, your maybe your lead hand, supervisor, management, right? Things of that nature. Same kind of idea in this industry. You're gonna have your starting off associate who's just starting out, right? Then you're gonna have the next level, a junior broker and a senior broker, right? We're gonna get into the titles of everything here in a second. So Irene, if you could, I'll let you start off kind of explaining the way the commission worked with World Financial Group back in your day.
And actually, just before we do that, guys, I just want to mention that there's nothing wrong with wanting to make more money. There's nothing wrong with being money driven. There's something wrong with being money hungry. There's a huge difference. I am very money driven, right? Of course, we like making more money. Why do we want to make more money? Because we want to enjoy the finer things in life. The problem becomes when people become money hungry, and they're only now doing this once they realize how much money they actually can make, and they meet these millionaires they become money hungry. And when you become money hungry, you start to do things and cut corners that, is not exactly appropriate for the clients, and you start to hurt clients. And I'll argue you also start to hurt your agents, because everyone comes in with the right mind. I don't think there's people that really, come in thinking I'm going to screw people, okay? But you start to learn ways from your, upline mentor, leader, or coach, whatever it is. And in most organizations, not on Experior, you're taught to just, stay in your lane and follow what your upline says to you. Don't ask questions, keep their blinders on. At Experior and in the Wins organization, we don't do that. I want you guys to explore and learn new ways and strategies and methods to help clients. And maybe it doesn't make you a lot of money, and that's okay. I believe that if you do what's right, every single time, you're going to make great money, but you can't be money hungry. The truth always comes out. If you become money hungry, you're not going to be in this business for very long, and people are going to realize who you are.
There's so much truth to that. I 100% endorse what you just said, and I've experienced that even in my past professions. When you focus on the money, and that's your primary focus, you don't make it.
Yep.
You never make it. The money will be there. It's like going to the gym. If you're focused on just building muscle and you don't make those gains right away, it dies out. But
Right.
if you just go through the process and just help people and do the right things, right, the money will automatic be there. It'll
Help. Yeah, exactly. Just one story. I had a guy that was in my organization many, many years ago. He's no longer with me. I don't even think he's in the industry anymore. But, every single time he would ask me, well, how much do I make off the sale? Well, how much do I make off the sale? Well, how much do I make off this client? What if I sell this? Do I make more? And I said, it's not about that, dude. Are we doing what's right for the client? And I remember one time he was doing a transfer for a client, and he was going to make like pennies. And he said to me, well, how much money do I make off this deal? I go, I don't know, you make a couple bucks. And he says to me, well, why am I doing this? I go, because you're doing what's right for the client. And he goes, well, can't I just, sell them this? And I go, well, you can, but that's not right. And guys, I let him go. I let him go. And he went to another organization. And funny enough, he was actually, became a quote unquote specialist in a product and strategy that makes an advisor the most amount of money. Okay. And he was selling this strategy to clients because it made him a lot of money. I don't think he's in the industry anymore. I think he's done. I think he pivoted to something else that was now maybe going to make him a lot of money. But I said to him, I don't want you in my organization. See you later. And a lot of organizations won't do that. They'll be like, yeah, go sell that. That's going to make us a lot of money. I don't work that way. Experior doesn't work that way.
That's great. And you know what? There are a lot of people who are just focused on making money, right? And there's probably a place for them. And they might be successful in that place. But you're right. Like part of being a successful person in the term successful is who you surround yourself with. Sure. And you have to surround yourself with people that are on the same path to the same success that you want to be.
Right. But there's a big difference between being rich and being wealthy. I think people who do wrong by people might be rich for a little bit. I think people who do what's right by people and build their wealth slowly, they are wealthy people. There's a massive, massive difference. I want to find people who want to be wealthy, not people who want to be filthy rich, because they are filthy. I don't like them.
That's so funny. Okay, so let's talk about the kind of the differences between organizations here, other than obviously the ethical part of everything and the moralistic part and what kind of those goals. There are some factual differences. So let's talk about that. And Irene, if you could talk about the commission ladder of World Financial Group.
And I also want to challenge everyone that's listening, go and find this information online. It is out there, okay? Don't just believe what your leader says, okay? Because there's a lot of leaders out there that will say, well, you can only pay 100% of the pie, and how is this possible? Go and find the numbers. At Experior, we will show you all the numbers. We will show you exactly what every single carrier pays, what's called FYC, first year commission. We have all the documentation. It's public, by the way. So if you don't believe us, go and do your own research. I am happy to send you the information that you need, because there's a lot of talk out there that, oh, how is this possible? How does Experior pay more? Well, it is possible, and we do, and people do make a lot of money here because we pay people what they deserve to be paid, not just because we're a builder's company. We're actually paying people what they deserve to be paid. So I challenge everyone, if you don't believe us, go and do your own research and you'll find out for yourself. Trust me.
Yes, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I finally decided to jump ship was, and I was very loyal and I'm still very fond of the team that I left. But one of the things that was pointed out to me, on a couple of occasions that we mentor was, that's awesome. You're loyal. They're great people. But my question to you, Irene, is, are they paying your bills? And again, at this point in my life where I was considering a change, on a single income, that really resonated with me. And it wasn't until he showed me, how much the equivalent of what I was at WFG, we'll call it marketing director, how much that would have made me if I was the equal marketing director on Experior's team. And I realized how much more money I would be able to make on the same deal. Like, I even had a deal in my head and I'm like, I would have made $1,000 more money. And this is just an example of this investment I literally just did at World Financial Group. And that's really what got me thinking about, because that's really at that point in time, I was helping clients with their financial plans. Like, I wasn't building my team at that point. I wasn't continuing to build my team, I should say. I was just focusing on what I had time to do, was helping clients with their financial plan. And again, I never really questioned what I was going to make. So for those people who are my clients now, I hope you realize that I don't go through what I make on anything I do for you. I was more concerned about how I can help you with your financial plan and get you to a point where you felt comfortable and secure with your financial plan. This is the first time I looked at how much I would benefit and how much I would benefit myself monetarily. And it just got me thinking about the value I placed on myself. I'll be honest with you, like, that's what it was. It was, maybe I was conditioned to feel like I deserved what I was making at the other place and never really took a look at what I was actually helping people with and putting more value on that. And this one company, just from their structure, was going to value me more for doing exactly the same work. And that's where I had to make that decision. It was a no-brainer. For those of you guys would probably understand, we leave jobs all the time for extra money, right? Forget the fact that, you're unhappy. You'll leave your job if it means that you're going to be doing the same job at a different place. We all understand, same shit, different pile, but this was different. This wasn't shit. This is something I was already doing, but this company was going to give me more and value my work more. That's how I saw it. And now, without going into detail about the different commission structure, I hope that with the people that are watching this, that I've had the experience with both organizations as well as a bank for 20 years, that there are greener pastures. You just have to be courageous enough to look for that. And you have to be open-minded to think that you could be doing the exact same thing you're doing right now with a different company and be valued more. And I could say that with 100% fact, because I've experienced it. I'm experiencing it. And for the longest time, I didn't leave because of the people, but it didn't mean that they would be bad people if I left. And I wouldn't be a bad person if I left. I mean, business is business. And if I'm helping my clients at the end of the day both ways, then we both can win, right? I could help make my dreams come true at the same time, as well as help my clients' dreams come true.
And two things, Irene. Number one, okay, you actually own the business that you're writing right now with your clients. Okay. It's yours and you can pass it down, and you don't just get a certificate. There's actual forms and documents legal forms and documents that you need to sign so that you can pass it on to a beneficiary. And you're right. You got to pay the bills. You got to make the money, right? The commission is also not just for you, it's also for your team. I've spoken to a lot of big leaders and I've asked them the simple question, and Irene, you and I talked about this, is, well, what if you make just a little bit less on the overrides, but every single person on your team is going to make double or triple what they're making right now? Is that something that would make you consider a move? And they said no. And I said, well, good luck to you. That tells me you don't care about your team. You just care about your override.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there's really good leaders that we brought on from these organizations that have said, wait a second, I can make more money on my own pen and my team can make more money on their own pen. And that means that they're going to have a bigger belief and they're going to own their book of business and I'm going to own my book of business. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, this is good. And so now what's happening with Experior is these leaders and a lot of big influential people in the industry are now hearing, well, they've been hearing, and they're now seeking us out. We don't have to go and find them. They're seeking us out and they're finding better opportunities for themselves, their families, and their teams.
So, and with both of what you just said, actually will impact the rest of the content here because of the fact that there's fear factors incorporated in what you just said about the book of business as well. With anyone who's thinking about leaving their current team, right? And that's part of the reasons why they get held back. With what you were talking about, Irene, in regards to not even thinking about how much money you're making, I was like that in the same sense because realistically, I mean, Experior reached out to me probably a year and a half ago, and I told you about that, Irene, when somebody reached out to me, and they just focused 100% on just the difference of commission. That's what they focused on when they were talking to me. With me, I was quizzing them in knowledge, and they weren't giving me the answers that I needed to hear, and so I never left, and I stayed. And so that again goes to show that I wasn't money hungry, right? Because I could have earned more just by leaving. I knew I could have earned more. It's just a matter of I didn't want to leave to join another team that wasn't going to be able to mentor me and help me, because the leadership is really it's probably one of the most important aspects. You know, your mentor. If you're going to join this industry, get involved in this industry, you need to get involved in this industry with someone who can actually give you guidance and direction in the proper way, right? And again, kudos to you, Dora, because I made that choice based off of you as a person, not really even the company structure. Okay, so in saying that, I do want to talk about the commissions levels, and like I said before, there are different levels. Just like when you're getting a job, you're starting off at a base salary and then moving up through the salary. Here's the same idea. So at World Financial Group, when you're starting out at 25% commission. Okay, and then once you attain the next level, you're starting at a 36% commission, a 51% commission on the junior broker, and their senior broker, which is called the senior marketing director, is getting a 66% commission. Okay, we're gonna break that down in a second, but again, very very vaguely. And George, could you just maybe explain what the same kind of idea of percentages that Experior offers?
Yeah, it's very similar, and really, or any organization that you go to, okay, the industry has what's called a bonus structure. Okay, so every individual financial advisor, financial agent in the industry gets paid a percentage of the sale. In insurance, industry talk is FYC, or first year commission. And what the first year commission is basically a factor or a percentage based on the company and the product that you offer to the client. Okay, so on insurance, it can be anywhere between, let's say 30% to 65%. 30% is an example of maybe like a child rider. Okay, and then you might go to a 40% FYC on a term 10 product with a particular company, CPP or Beneva or some of the great companies that we work with. Okay, and you can go all the way and remember this number and remember why, and go all the way to a 65% factor on a universal life policy. 65% is the highest FYC, okay? And then what you do is you multiply the annual premium that you're selling the client. So if you're doing $100 a month, it's $1,200 annual premium, and you multiply it by the factor. So let's just say you do the highest factor, universal life, at 65%, okay? So y'all can do math. If you do 1,200 times 65%, that's 780. That factor is now used for two things. It's used to determine your payout, because now you're going to add your bonus. And it's also used to determine your override if one of your associates goes and makes that same sale. Okay. So if, for example, here, as a senior financial associate, which is essentially where most agents start once they get licensed and they're done their field training. Okay. As a senior financial associate, you're at a 70% bonus. So if I take that $780 and I multiply that by 1.7, which is what you do, I get paid $1,326. Okay. So it's very simple. You take your annual premium, multiply by the FYC or the factor, and then you add your bonus. There's a huge misconception out there and a lot of people lie about our compensation, is that you take 70% of that $780. It's not true. You are adding the bonus to the FYC. Okay. So remember that, guys. And again, anybody who doubts that, I am happy to show you my commission statements and show you exactly how I get paid on every single deal, because a lot of brokers out there don't know how they get paid. All right.
So on a comparison scale, so someone first starting out in this industry, if they join a company like a World Financial Group, and from my understanding, Primerica Great Way are very, very similar to World Financial Group's 26%. Okay. At Experior, you're starting at 40%. Just in that example.
Yeah. So again, Experior, the bonus of 40% is at a financial associate level. Okay. Most people, again, if they're brand new and they're field training with us, and they get their license and they've done their field training and hit their numbers, they start at a senior financial associate. So 40% is there if they want to write business, for whatever reason, and they don't want to field train, which usually when you do that, you're not really successful, but you can be at a 40% bonus. Okay. The industry as a whole works in a very, very, very similar structure. The only change with World Financial Group, and it's not bad, right? It's fine. I mean, every company has their way of doing it, but at World Financial Group, you have a point system. Okay. And nobody really knows what the FYC is, the first year commission, because what WFG does, and again, nothing bad about it, is they work on a point system. Okay. So they have a particular factor that they multiply the annual premium by. Okay. From what I hear, and again, nobody has been able to actually show me on paper exactly what the factor is for universal life policy, but from what I hear, it's about 1.65% for a universal life policy. Okay. And Irene is, like nodding her head. She's like, yeah, that's true. Okay. So if I take 1,200 and I multiply by 1.65, I get a number of 1,980. As an associate with World Financial Group, which is at a 36% bonus level, which is equivalent to a senior financial associate, I'm now making $712 versus the 1,326. If I go all the way up to a senior marketing director level at a 66% bonus, my payout on that same deal is now $1,306. So as a senior financial associate at Experior Financial Group, you're now making basically the same, if not a couple dollars more than what a senior marketing director makes at World Financial Group. There's no building needed. There's no recruiting needed. You don't need a team. All you need to do is field train with your upline or with your mentor and get your license. And you're already starting at the same level as the senior broker at World Financial Group. Okay. Now, why is that good? Because you're getting into this industry and you can actually earn money. The way to get to the higher levels of compensation, okay, so there's 40%, there's 70%, there's 100%, 140%, and 145%. 145% is the highest compensation as a senior executive director or up, national executive director or senior national executive director. Okay. The compensation stops at 66% at World Financial Group. SMD and above, it stops. You can't make any more. Okay. The way to get to the 140% as an executive director, guess what? You don't need to build a team. You can make it purely based on income. So if you do come in and you're a producer, you're a stronger producer than you are a recruiter, you can get up to the 140% bonus. So on that same deal, if the annual premium is $1,200, 65% FYC, as a senior or as an executive director level, you're now making $1,872. No recruiting needed, no building needed, just purely off of income. Okay. Let's talk for a second about investments, because that's another big part of our business. Okay. It's very simple. Financial associate at Experior makes 2.5%. Senior financial associate is 3%. Senior manager is 3.3%. And executive director and above is 4%. Okay. So if I bring in $100,000, I will make $2,500, $3,000, $3,300, $4,000 respectively. Okay. At World Financial Group, same thing, 26%, 36%. But again, there's a factor. And again, from what I've heard, the $100,000 is multiplied by an 84% factor. So you get a point amount of 4,200, and then you multiply by your bonus. So an associate, which is equivalent to a senior financial associate at Experior, will now make $1,512, whereas a senior financial associate will make $3,000. A senior marketing director will make $2,772. So again, as a senior financial associate, I am making more money than a senior marketing director or above love at World Financial Group. Where World Financial Group beats us out sometimes is on the overrides. There's a little bit more override, and that's okay. But guys, I would rather you go and make more money than I make override, because the more successful you are, the more successful we are as an organization. I know I'm going to make a great income. I know I can go write a bunch of business. I know that I'm still going to make the override. But if I make a little bit less so that you guys can make a little bit more, that's a successful business.
I don't think people know what an override is. If you could explain what an override is, because that's very, very important.
Yeah, good question. So all an override is just the spread between my compensation and your compensation. So basically, when Irene goes and helps a client or Phil goes and helps a client, I make a bit of a spread, okay? I basically make the difference from the FYC. And it's the same thing across the board at Primerica, at WFG, at World, at Great Way, all across the board. And that's totally okay, because every business runs like that. There's a spread in every business. Phil, you're in automotive sales. When you sold a car, you made your income, and then your manager's salary was paid from the spread, and then the executive salary is paid from the spread, and so on and so on. And so on. And then they were bonused out at the end of the year if you hit a certain amount of sales. It's just like any other business structure out there that's ever existed since the beginning of time. All right. And yes, it looks like a triangle. That's the business structure, okay? And it is not any scheme. It is totally legal. It is exactly how business runs. And any one of you employees that thinks, oh my God, it's a scheme. Well, guess what? You're all in a scheme, because you're all working and you're all selling your time, and you're selling a product or a service, and you're making your commissions or your salaries, and everyone above you is making money that way, okay? And Experior and WFG and Primerica, they're the exact same system. There ain't nothing wrong with it. I'm not selling anyone here something that they need to go and sell to their friends and family and coworkers and all that stuff. That's a scheme, okay? But this is a typical business structure where there's a spread from the sales. Here's what I love about Experior. When you go and make a sale and you help a client, I can never make more money than what you make. It's impossible. It doesn't mathematically work in our commission structure. It just doesn't work, okay? Whereas at most other organizations, the highest level person will make more money than the lower level person when that lower level person goes out and makes a sale. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think that's fair. I don't think that that should exist out there. I think we should pay people a little bit more money when they're starting out in business so that they can, feed their family, feed their kids, and build themselves and not struggle to the top. And I don't mind making a little bit less, because I've made the good money and I've worked hard and I've built my organization. I'm good. Now let me show you how to do the same without you struggling. I don't want anyone struggling.
And that's what I liked what you said there. You talked about the override difference, right? And let's face it, guys, we have been conditioned to accept that our bosses make more than us. We've been conditioned like that, right? So, whoa, abstract thinking. What if we made more than our upline or our bosses? Right?
Totally possible, by the way.
Can you imagine, right?
Totally possible, because our industry is an equal opportunity industry. That's another thing that I love. That's Experior and everyone else out there. I can do better than the person who brought me into the business. Whereas employees, I cannot get promoted to a higher level to the person above me unless they get promoted, fired, they quit, or they retire. I am stuck, okay? Now, I will argue that there are some organizations out there that I have heard that keep their people down. Why? Because they need to protect their override, okay? Right. Because here's another example of why I love our commission structure. You guys were at World Financial Group, and you guys were both associates at one point. Irene, if you were an associate and you had Phil as an associate, and Phil went out and made a sale, did you make any money?
No, because we're making the exact percentage.
Because you're at the same level, right? There's no spread, right? And if you were a training associate, an associate, or a marketing director, and you had someone at the same level as you and they went out and made a sale, you don't make any money. You don't start making overrides on the same level until you become a senior marketing director. And then if you promote a senior marketing director, there's now what's called generational override. It works the same way here. However, Irene, if you're a senior manager and you have Phil and you promoted Phil to a senior manager and Phil goes out and makes a sale, do you make money here?
Yes.
Yes, you do. Why? Because I, as your executive director, will take from my override and pay to you. So
Which I love.
Right. Because again, you're trying to build a business, you're trying to make money, right? Why should I only make money when your team goes out and makes a sale. You deserve to make money as well. So
Right.
whether you're a financial associate, senior financial associate, or senior manager, if you have someone at the same level as you and they go make a sale, I take 10% on insurance. I take 10% of my spread or override and I will pay to you. So Phil gets paid what he deserves, you get paid what you deserve, and Phil get and I get paid what I deserve. Okay? And I'm totally okay with taking out of my pocket so that you can make and you can grow more trust in our business and then grow a bigger business. I'm totally okay with that. And I know a lot of parents out there that will literally, my mom used to do this, that will literally take from their mouth and feed their kids. I want to feed my kids because I want my kids to succeed. I want my people to succeed. I want them to make money. I don't think it's fair that when you're trying to build a team and you're not making any money. That's not fair. Why
I want to throw
are you
some
building a team then?
I want to throw some numbers at you guys, okay? And you guys tell me who's World Financial Group, who's Experior, okay? So let's say I have a client and they're paying $286 a month on their policy, and so you're getting paid commission now. All right.
Okay.
One commission is making $1,537 for this deal. The other person is making $2,406.73. Which one is World Financial Group? Which one is Experior? One's making $1,500. The other one's making $2,400 on the exact same deal. Which is which?
The one that's higher is Experior.
So that's almost $1,000 difference.
Yeah.
Okay. So now there's another deal, and the annual premium is going to be $1,500 a month. So that's $125 or $1,500 a year, $125 a month. One person is taking home one agent's taking home $670. The other agent's taking home $1,050. Which one Experior? Which one's World Financial Group?
Experior is 1,000.
Almost $400 difference. One
Yeah.
more, guys. So the agents did a deal, and the annual premium on this policy is $1,080. So one agent is taking home $482. The other agent is taking home $761. Which one is World Financial? Which one's Experior?
Experior is the higher one.
Wrong.
What?
The higher one is the senior agent at World Financial Group.
Oh.
So on the exact same deal, the person who did the deal is making almost $300 less than his senior. just as a comparison, I thought I'd throw that trick at you guys.
And that
Really?
and that would never happen at Experior, not on insurance and not on investments.
Isn't that crazy? $300 more. It's like, wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
So now here's the thing, and this is the even crazier part. So you as an agent has just busted your butt, and you just made your $1,000 less than the Experior agent, right? But you made your $1,500 on this deal, and you start realizing, hey, wait, I'm losing out on thousands of dollars here. So you decide to move over. You brought that business. You brought it. They didn't know who this client was. They had no idea who this client even existed. You brought that business in, and you go and you leave, right? Does that client come with you? No. So when you leave, within weeks, the World Financial Group is sending a message out saying your advisor is no longer your advisor, and this new advisor is now your advisor. And they don't say that you left. They say you've been terminated, right? You've been terminated. Now, they're not saying that they terminated you. They're just saying that you've been terminated, right? Because they didn't terminate anyone. You left, right? You resigned. But they still say that to the clients out there, and that this is your new advisor. Okay, within weeks. So now the client's saying, wait, no, I want Irene to still be my advisor. That's who I know. I don't know this other person, right? Irene can get you back. But what World Financial Group is, they charge you a fee. You have to buy that client back from them. It's your client. They had no idea who this client was. You did all the work to bring this client into the business, right? And bring them to the provider. Mind you, World Financial Group isn't the one providing the insurance. They're not the one providing the investment. They're not doing anything regarding this client's future wealth. But you still have to pay World Financial Group, not the providers, but World Financial Group, to get that business back, so then you can continue helping that client. How does that make any sense? That I don't understand. Now, Dror, let me ask you, because like you said, you've been 10 years with Experior.
Yep.
If an agent were to be an Experior and for whatever reason decided that they wanted to become a part of a different agency, would they go through these same hardships?
Absolutely not. I've had that one agent that I was talking about earlier, who I told him to leave, didn't have to pay a penny for his book of business. Just had to do some paperwork for his new brokerage, and he took everything over. And actually, he left me with a bunch of chargebacks because he replaced business just to make the new the new commissions, even though it was a great policies that we did. Okay. He left and took his business within a couple of days. I think within a week, his business was transferred, didn't pay a penny for it, and actually left me with chargeback.
That's crazy. So you actually got impounded by costs of the agent leaving,
Yes.
where with World Financial Group, they're literally
They're
making you
not
pay.
anything.
Yeah, and that's where I struggle, in this industry is if you're doing all the footwork, all the hard work, all the talking and all the marketing, all the promotion. So you're investing time, money, effort, emotion into bringing this business and building up your business. These agencies say build your own business. In the beginning of this, that was how Irene introduced this podcast, is establishing your own business, build your dream, right? So is it your dream? Is it your business with these other agents? Look into that. It's written right on the contracts. Where I was simply just amazed is when I started with you, Jordan, and I started with Experior, was I actually contracted myself with the providers. And on the contracts with the providers, it says this book of business does not belong to Experior. It literally says that on these contracts to these providers. This book of business does not belong to Experior. Mind blown.
Yep. And when you first sign on with Experior, right, you sign an agent ownership agreement. You're not signing an agent membership agreement. And it specifically says in our agreement, point 12, you as the associate own your book of business. And if you ever decide to leave, as long as there's no chargebacks, right, you can take your book of business. It's all yours. But in the AMA, in the agent membership agreement, you're a member, okay? You're not an owner. It specifically says you have no proprietary interest in any insurance or investment products, right? Now, they will tell you that you own your book of business. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, you do while you're at that organization. But if you ever choose to leave, that's it. You don't own it anymore. That's like driving around in a Mercedes and I want to sell it on Auto Trader or Facebook Marketplace or another dealership, right? And I can only sell it back to Mercedes because you can sell your book of business back at that organization, at World Financial Group. But there's no number that's stipulated like there is at Experior. There's nothing. You literally have to put it up for sale. And if nobody wants to buy it, you're stuck.
And I'm going to go a little more in depth in what you just said. You, Jor David, if you were with World Financial Group, Jor David does not own that book of business. Agent code, whatever agent code Jor David has, owns that book of business.
Correct.
Okay. So that's the difference. If your agent code is 19RDUC at World Financial Group, that agent code is associated to all of the business.
Correct.
My name is not. So it's like your example of, buying a car and you can only sell it back to that dealership or that brand. No, it's like having a car, but you're only driving in dealer plates.
That's right.
You have the car, you're driving it. That's great. You look cool, but it's a dealer plate and the ownership on the ownership papers is still that dealer.
That's right.
That's exactly the same scenario. You
Yep.
cannot sell that car. You cannot do anything to anybody else. The dealer, if they want it, they can just take it back.
That's right. And at Experior, you have an identification code with Experior. Okay, it's your FundServe code, which is universal across the industry. Okay, but then you have individual codes with each carrier. Okay, that's like having a custom-made license plate. I have my own custom-made license plate. I own my car. That is mine. I can do whatever I want with that car. I can sell it to someone off the street. I can sell it back to the dealer where I bought it. I can do whatever the heck I want with it. That's the difference between a lot of other organizations where you do not own your book. And please, guys, read your contracts. You're getting into business here. Read your contracts. Give it to a lawyer. Like, look it over. And what you have at Experior. At Experior, you actually own your book. You have your own custom-made license plate.
I asked a senior broker at World Financial Group when I was there, do I own my own book of business? And he actually said, yes, we don't own people. That was his answer. Yes, we don't own people. Okay. So he lied, first off. Second part is he was trying to cushion it. You're right. You don't own people. The people can make a decision, but the business they own, the business they own. So even though the people say, yeah, I want you, Philip, to still be my advisor with this new agency, the people can come over, but Philip, you have to pay for them. Right?
Yep.
And in regards to your own business, right? If you're doing your own business, you should be able to market yourself, promote yourself, all of these kind of things. Okay. With World Financial Group, you could not put out a marketing promotion unless it was approved.
Right.
Technically, you could only put out the marketing material that they wanted you to put out, and if they saw that you were putting out marketing promotions that was not already approved by a senior agent or the company itself, they could actually ask you to take down the entire site. And if you did not, they were going to fine you.
Well, on the topic of owning people, I can't tell you how many times I've spoken to agents at World Financial Group, and who do I get a call from? Their mommy and daddy upline. Why are you talking to my people? I go, I can talk to whoever I want. It's a free country, right? This is why we moved here, and your people can make their own decisions. If they think that there's a better opportunity out there for them and their families, they can make their decisions. I don't know who you are to call me and say, don't go after my people. They ain't your people. You don't own them. You have your business, which you don't even own that. You don't own anyone. And so I just love when these people call me, or call us and say, don't go after my people. They're not your people. They're their own people. And I believe, guys, one of the responsibilities that we have as agents is not just to show clients a better opportunity. I think it's our industry given right to show agents a better opportunity as well. If we know that there's, in our heart of hearts, if we know that there's a better opportunity out there in our organization, I believe it's our duty to reach out to every single person and say, hey, just so you know, I'm an Experior. I think there might be a better opportunity. You may or may not be for you, but I just want you to know about it. Because if I had the cure for cancer, for example, I wouldn't keep it from anyone. Well, maybe some people. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't keep it from anyone. I want everyone to know about it. I want everyone to know about the Experior opportunity and what we have here. Because I believe that, and I'm not going to say it's the best opportunity out there, because best is all relative. I think we have a damn good opportunity here at Experior. And I think everyone listening should really, really, look at themselves in the mirror and ask themselves why they're doing what they're doing, and look at their ownership that they have or lack thereof, and really take a look at what's happening in the industry. Because again, we're attracting some incredible talent. And if you're making great money and you're doing what's right for people at your organization, God bless you. Keep fighting the good fight. That's what I always say. If you're happy there, amazing, keep going. But if you think in your heart of hearts that there might be something better out there, and maybe you're struggling, and maybe you've been at an organization for several years and you're still stuck at, that marketing director position, and you still haven't even made $50,000 or $100,000 in the most lucrative industry in the world, I think there's a problem.
Those are strong words. Those are very strong words. And you know what? This is the crazy part is when I had a question with World Financial Group, oh my goodness, I had to jump. I felt like I was, a animal in a circus jumping through hoops and having to learn all these things, right? Because there was never a simple answer for anything. Or I had to submit a ticket for a case study or whatever they do. Like, I don't know, they had to go through a whole team in order to get an answer to what I was asking. And all they did was take a template out of a manual and give me an answer. I never actually was able to speak to anybody regarding my question, right? So people, there's a few things that World Financial Group is, I don't know why they don't want you to see them. One, the contract, right? Get the contract, read it, right? That's probably the most important thing, because it's stated right there. You don't own their business, they do. Okay. Other things that I experienced was World Financial Group actually would say, we don't endorse this provider, right? We want you to do your business with these providers. That was actually brought up in meetings that I was attending. I don't know what conflicts they were having or whatever was happening in the background, because I wasn't privy to that information, but it would be from a senior high executive, right? Saying we're no longer endorsing this provider. It was actually, and I don't want to name the provider in case they hear this podcast, but they were actually one that I used for literally all my investments because they were really strong for investments. So a client focused provider that was benefiting the clients. And now I have my agency saying we don't want to endorse them. Mind you, I still continue doing business with them because I was more focused on the clients. I didn't care. And I had this conversation with Irene. I didn't care what the agency was telling me. I wanted to make sure my clients were still winning, but the agency was saying these kind of things. So they're trying to guide you towards what's going to benefit the agency. Why? I'm going to assume the agency made more money from these other providers. That's what I'm going to assume, even though I might have been making less, right? So, and then again, the payout, the just the payout, the way we're paid. I don't know about you, Irene, but I even asked the administration of my senior broker how to read my pay stub at World Financial Group. They couldn't answer me. Nobody knew how to read the pay stub. So how do I know if I'm actually getting paid properly, right? People look into these things, right? How it's paid, how transparent is that payment system, right? We already discussed the transferability of business, right? That's I mean, night and day. Here's your, you know what, you worked hard to get this. Here, this is your business. Good luck, right? Where the other one
And
is, no, this isn't your business, and get out of here.
yep. And there's really, and this is well known, there's really three main providers that people are told to use. And it's purely because, and they're great products, by the way, they're great providers. There's nothing bad to say. I always say there's no bad products out there. They're just really bad advice. Right? If there were bad products out there, all you buy term and invest the difference people, no, all products are good, but it depends on the client. Okay. It's not just term. There's a reason why you study this in your LLQP. Okay. Why you study term and whole life and universal life, because there's a product for everyone, but there's really only three main providers that you're told to use because they pay the most amount of commission. That's why. For example, universal life, okay? If and when the opportunity comes, there is a good, really, really good provider that has a very low cost of insurance, in contrast to another provider that World Financial Group tells you to use. If you're actually wanting to help the client, do your research. Here's the problem. When you say that you're a broker, if there's a particular company that you are brokering with, you should have access to all products and services. No, you don't, because they block you from doing business on certain products and services of these companies. So you can use this product, but you can't use this product. That's not a real brokerage. At Experior, whoever we are contracted with, any amazing company, Industrial Alliance, amazing company, Beneva, incredible company, Manulife, incredible company, we have access to all products and services out there. We are not restricted. We don't have contracts with every single company out there because you need certain levels and you got to hit certain volumes and stuff like that, which is okay. But we still have access to basically every single product and service out there. We're not limited, and we are certainly not ever told, go sell this company because it makes you the most amount of money. And if that's what you're being told to do, you're not doing right by clients.
Again, this topic is a huge topic. We can go on and on and on forever, but
Yep.
we do need to end this podcast because we've been going way too long. Irene, anything to say?
No, I appreciate yours speaking here today, and I hope a lot of you guys watch this video and just have courage to ask more questions. If I could just ask you to do anything, just have courage to ask more questions. I appreciate everybody here. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to the next video we do, guys.
Absolutely.